recorded live.
Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation or around the world. Once again, you are listening to the VMware Communities Roundtable Podcast. This is podcast number 612. My name is Eric Nelson, and today I have my regular co-host, Matt Longeth. Today is Wednesday, July 6th, 2022. Matt, how are you doing today?
Eric, I am well. This is now 2 weeks in a row for us being together now as co-hosting and whatnot. I feel like that has been a little bit of an anomaly through the spring here, but glad to be on the show as always. We're in the midst of all things summer weather in central Pennsylvania. It's hot, sticky, muggy, raining yesterday, a little bit here this morning, supposed to clear up through the weekend. We have my good buddy Dave Marrera to talk about all things vSphere Plus, vSAN Plus. But before we get to that, sir, my favorite questions. How are you? How are things out on the West Coast? And what is the color of the Bay? I hear it is unseasonably cold out towards the San Francisco area and was through the July 4th weekend. What are the details on that, sir?
You know, it's odd. It's been chilly, rainy, cloudy, not rainy, just cloudy and blustery in the mornings. And then it just kind of like dries up and gets sunny and warm in the afternoons. So it's been pretty in the afternoons, but you got to kind of wear a jacket if you're going to go to coffee in the morning. So, but, you know, can't complain. Don't have the humidity, you know, but it has been not perfect weather all day, a little chilly in the mornings, but nice in the afternoons. We had a wonderful Thanksgiving, 4th of July, and I'm looking forward to it. I do have to do a shout out to VMUG and all the people that said congratulations, thanks, because I'm on the VMUG board and I'm really excited about that. VMUG announced that Ann Johnson will be stepping down and I will be filling that slot. So excited about that. Always love VMUG. I'm a community guy at heart, always have been. So kind of excited about that. So got a little energy.
Absolutely. Congratulations all around.
Yeah, congrats.
Yeah, now if I could just get some travel budget, I would actually maybe go to a VMUG meeting, but you know, we'll work on that. Should be fun. I'm excited about it. I've always loved the community, always loved VMUG, love the board, love everything they try to do. And Matt, I know you are close to Brad Thompson as well, so we're excited about just, you know, being able to help them be great as they always have. I'm not the guy that wants to radically change anything. I'm just going to be a board member and make sure that VMware keeps funding them best we can. So excited about that. So yeah, let's talk about a little bit of what's going on. Obviously, VMware Explorer is starting to ramp up now. Content catalog went live June 28th, so it's been out for a couple weeks now. Schedule Builder is going July 19th, and given that it is July 6th, we have 13 more days, and we will remind you next week that set your calendar, set an alarm. July 19th, Schedule Builder opens up. We should get a time and date for that in case you want to go get yourself one of the popular sessions. Sometimes those guys fill up. Don't know if it's going to fill up as quickly this year. Registration is going fine. We've seen an uptick in the registration curve now, as you would expect when content catalog went live. You started to see registration. So if you're thinking of coming, I would encourage you to come. I think it's going to be a fun event this year. We're putting all in. Me and Corey are going to do everything with vExperts. We're trying to build our gift bags. And I got to say, I think we're going to have Nooks in them. I'm not absolutely positive. Can to get prices down to Nooks so we can afford it, but and we think we have maybe NetApp and a couple other vendors going to sponsor it, so we can cover that. So we're still working on that, but I think it's going to happen. But if it doesn't, don't shoot me in the head quite as quickly as you'd like to. So that's going to be fun. US August 29th through September 1st, Europe November 7th through the 10th. Going to be a lot going on. Go register because Schedule Builder is opening up, and they have, last week we had Allison Crooker here, 600 plus sessions going on, so should be great. Matt, anything else we should cover before we get to Dave?
I would say that I think the discount period ends on July 15th for Explore passes. So if you're interested in taking advantage of any type of discount that's out there for what we call early bird pricing, get in on it now. If you're listening, we're recording this here on the 6th, obviously. So a couple of more days before that discount magically disappears and you're back at full MSRP, as they say.
Right. I don't even know what the price is these days to reg.
It's a bit, I would say it's in line with any other tech conference pass that's out there.
I'm listening to radio. Is that my phone? Somebody's phone? Who's got noise? Oh, no. Oh, that's loopback. Somebody's got somebody, either Graham or Tony has it loud enough that I can hear it. Anyway, we'll move on. Dave and Matt, it's not you because you muted, so it was probably one of them talk shoe, but there we go. I muted both of them. All right, we're back. So let's talk guest. I don't think I have anything else to talk about. Corey's not here today, so we are doing the bags. The code experiences are going to come, and
we had mentioned it last week. If you are planning on attending Explore and you are a vExpert, we need to get a reg number for gifts and whatnot. So please hit vexpert.vmware.com and find out what it is as far as the going in for the events section, checking which box that you will be attending and going from there.
Perfect. Yep. All right. So Dave, we always start out with, because we're a community podcast, tell us a little bit about who you are and how long, what's your career arc been?
Eric, I'm going to ask us to pause there just for a second. I'm hearing a tremendous amount of feedback and a loop back again.
Right. So Dave, it might be because you don't have headphones that, yeah, it is you. I think your mic is picking up your audio speaker live stream. StreamYard, we use StreamYard. They're not like they don't do as well as Zoom, where they can
for audio cancellation.
Yeah, audio cancellation. It's so surprising because you think StreamYard would be very good at that, but they are not. So we'll give Dave a chance to put on some headphones. There, now you look like a podcaster.
All right.
That was much better. That's it. That was it. All right. We eliminated that. So Dave, career arc, what you got going? How long have you been out of university? Did you go to university? And then what have you done since then? And how'd you end up at VMware?
Okay. That's a wild ride, but yeah. So I grew up in Costa Rica. I was there up until first year and a half of college. Started business administration. Then I came up to the States to study, and then met a woman, and that was pretty much it, right? But so I started working different jobs here and there, and I kept hearing about certifications. Hey, if you get certified, you make X amount of money, blah, blah, blah. So I figured, hey, I'm gonna start and try that out. I had not finished my college degree back then, and then so I decided to go ahead and do that, and I ended up working for Unisys right out of getting some Microsoft certifications. And that was a huge career opportunity for me. There's, huge company, ended up being a contractor for the state of Pennsylvania. And then from there, I started climbing up knowledge-wise, right? I started learning a lot, had a great team of a lot of experts in the field, mainly Microsoft area. Then I started moving out to other companies in the Pennsylvania area, Harrisburg, to be specific. And from there, I gather more knowledge, not just on that Microsoft AD Exchange side, but also, started hearing about VMware, and I started hearing about networking, and I started dabbling in things like that. And this was back in a time where Microsoft was switching over to subscription, right? And they were saying, hey, Office 365. And me being an Exchange admin, I was not very happy. I would say, you would take my Exchange server off my cold dead hands. And they did, but I survived. But anyway, that opened the doors to learning VMware, right? Now that I didn't have to babysit a server.
Right.
Then they came to me and say, hey, now that you have this extra time, then how about you start doing something that, can help you? And I started looking into VMware, working, and became a VR admin. And from there, I started climbing up as being a manager, director, etc., for the infrastructure and operations for several companies. So that's how I started getting into the VMware side. How I landed at VMware, it's been a combination of, just being, call an expert, quote unquote, but also being involved with the community, which is something I always liked. From day zero, right? When I joined VMware, that was a huge difference between different other companies, right? So I found out that the VMware community was something special, and they love to give back to the community without expecting anything back from them. And that's always something I liked. So I started blogging, became part of vExperts, and started knowing people like Matt that we met at a VMUG. So everything started tying up together, right? VMUG's community, all these things, and just the technology itself. People were very enthusiastic about the technology we're creating here, and we end up becoming friends because we have similar likes, etc. So through networking, I found out about an opportunity being a solutions architect. So I ended up doing proof of concepts for vSAN, Tanzu, VMware Cloud Foundation within VMware. And I recently, about a year or so, I moved on to being in technical marketing, which is also something I've been doing here and there, even in my previous jobs.
That's a classic career arc, I gotta say.
Yeah.
At one point, I was at a VMUG and I asked people, like, would everybody like to have their college logo on one of the things we were working on, right? And everybody looked at me like, "What? No, we don't want to do that," right? Like, I was like, "How many of you guys actually finished college versus how many of you guys went out and worked and have just certified your way into where we're at now?" And like 9 out of 10 people raised their hand, right, going like, "Yeah, this is how I got where I got, right? I learned this stuff, and I spent my college time learning all the ins and outs of IT architecture, right?" And so, yeah, that's very classic.
Funny enough, though, I mean, halfway through it, I got to a point where I couldn't advance my career anymore, and because they were throwing the college card out, I was like, fine, I'll go to college.
Right.
And I mean, they pay for it, this company, and so it took me 4 years to get an associate, and then another 4 to get a bachelor's, and then a master's degree after that. But I ended up getting everything. Yeah.
Right. We'll get to the vSphere Plus in a second. I'll let Matt take us through that. But one thing I will say is, we're on we live stream on vBarbecue on YouTube, and you look like you're like 24 years old, right? Like, you look like you're like I'm like, what did you start when you were 12? Because this is I'm paying you a compliment. Like, holy smokes, you look great, right? Like, for a career going, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I eat a lot of smoked meat, so maybe that's the secret.
That must be the secret. Awesome. Matt, why don't you take us through the vSphere Plus and vSAN Plus topics? I'll let you go for a while.
So, Dave, I guess the question we should start with is why, right? What was the technical case that was out there, or what was the playbook that was out there in core vSphere that we needed? Where was the deficiency, so to say, that we had identified that now vSphere Plus is coming to fill in the gap? Obviously, a tremendous amount of feature sets that are out there. I've seen this out there in the blogosphere, so to say, that this is enhanced link mode without enhanced link mode requirements, right? In some ways. So what's the case? Why are we starting to do this? How does this all play into SaaS? What's a little bit of the background before we start to dive into the nuts and bolts of all the feature sets that is now vSphere Plus?
Sure. Yeah, I think, that's an excellent question, because knowing where we're coming from, it's very important, right? We're not making software just to make software, but we're identifying a problem, and that is the state of IT right now for a lot of our customers. Back in the day, a few years back, cloud was one of the main talks. Hey, let's move to the cloud. Some people did, some people didn't. Which workloads belong in the cloud or which workloads belong on premises. And, the state of IT right now ends up being a segregated environment. So from an operation standpoint, you're going to have your customers that have a lot of on-prem and some cloud, or you may have bigger customers that have several locations on premises and several clouds at the same time. So if you think about it from an operational standpoint, you have to go ahead and manage different bubbles, different silos everywhere, right? Even if you have one on-prem, there's a lot of silos within that on-prem bubble. So this problem of just being able to see your entire organization in one location, that alone, it's been problematic for the customers, and as well as lifecycle management on top of that, right? So not only just being able to see what you have, but having a clear view of what is happening inside those locations, like a global view for security, global view for events. What's going on Saturdays when nobody's working in the office, right? Why do we see so many errors on all these locations?
Configuration drift, right? Life
Yes.
cycling, all of that we'd
Right.
have to touch at individual, sometimes at the individual vCenter level,
Mhm.
depending on whether that would be, a mixture of that on-prem or cloud or all cloud, right? But it would be potentially in multiple hyperscalers if the customer was down that cloud journey so far. It's the idea of bringing all of those disparate vCenter instances under a single pane of glass for configuration drift management, alerting, and in some instances even VM deployment. I think is a feature set that's out there now.
Yeah. So vSphere Plus is the first step into all that, right? Project Arctic is the bigger vision of where we want to get, and Project Arctic involves vSphere Plus, vSAN Plus, etc. So we'll be adding more features and products as we go through. But the main thing now is that vSphere Plus is our first step to get into this hybrid, global view of your entire infrastructure from one place.
So let's walk through the process, right? We're interested in, let's say, a typical use case where we would have 2 on-premises data centers that for whatever reason were not joined by enhanced link mode. Could be multiple business units, or now that you've had gone through M&A, where the secondary data center was the primary for the company that had been acquired. We've seen that before, but now the IT staff is combined, and we want to manage that under a single pane of glass. Mm-hmm. What does that deployment process look like? What does let's pricing aside and whatnot, knowing that this is a SaaS model, but what are some of the feature requirements that are out there? Do we need to be on a minimum vSphere version? Can we look at something like 6.5 or 6.7? Do we need to be on 7? Is there, security requirements, service accounts? Is there an appliance in the back end that has to run to make this all function, or is it native within the hypervisor? What are some of the requirements to get this deployed and up and running for 2 on-prem environments? And then we can talk about what this would look like in a hybrid scenario.
Okay. Yeah, it's very simple, but obviously we try to keep it secure, right? So some of the requirements, it's understanding that everything's going to stay on-prem. So we're not moving vCenters around. We're not moving hosts. We're not moving VMs anywhere. Everything's going to stay on premises. We're just going to connect that to our, what we have already, the VMware cloud that we had it for years. So one of the things that the first thing we're going to do is the customer is going to go out and procure their entitlement for vSphere Plus. So this is the same vSphere flavor that you have. Minimum requirements would be 703 from a vCenter standpoint, E3 to be exact. But for ESXi hosts, you can have 6.5 or above, right? So some of those are the requirements, so that they can talk the same language pretty much. Once you have your entitlement, you can go to Customer Connect and download an appliance, which is your gateway appliance. And this is what's going to connect your vCenter out to the cloud. We don't want to connect vCenters directly to the internet to connect to the cloud.
This is, to make a overly simplified analogy, kind of a UAG, right? For what we have as an intermediary point between vCenter and the outside world. We have an intermediary point so that the vCenter, for a lot of different security reasons, right, it doesn't have that direct connection to the outside world. There's no need to place it in the DMZ and whatnot. Sure.
Right. So this appliance, it's installed locally on one of those vCenters. It's called the cluster where this vCenter lives will be cluster 0, for example. And within cluster 0, we will install that gateway appliance.
So with the appliance, let's say that we're looking at a larger size data center. Is it a one-to-one relationship between the appliance and vCenter, or does the appliance, or is a single appliance able to cover multiple vCenter instances within a DC? Right? Or to that end, what's best practices?
Yeah, for now, a single gateway appliance can manage or register up to 4 vCenter servers.
Okay.
We're expecting that number to increase, but for now, that's the number we have. So in your case, in your use case, you have with only 2 vCenters, both can share that vCenter gateway appliance.
Okay. And can we deploy multiple, or is some of the cloud connectors that we have out there? I specifically think of the one for the Horizon Universal Console, where we can deploy those in an HA pair within a single data center. Is that a capability that's out there for the appliance, or is it just a single instance at this point?
It's a single instance. And the reason for that is because it's low touch from a customer standpoint, right? You deploy it.
Sure. Photon based, I'm assuming.
Yes. Yep. Photon based. If something happens, worst case, deploy a new one, register those vCenters, you're back connected to the cloud, right? Like I said, you can share those. But you also have the option to break it out and architect it in a way that you want to do per site, for example. So if you have a site in California and a site in Florida, you can have 2 gateway appliances if you want to connect into your same account in the VMware cloud.
Okay.
For the SIM. And we also, one of the main things that I tell customers is that, hey, we're telling you to deploy a VM or an appliance. And if I look back at my days of VI admin, I would think, hey, you're giving me something else to work and something else to keep track of. But in this case, we're not. So we're making the upgrades of these appliances automatic. So when there's a new update or a new feature, we're going to be pushing these updates down to the appliance for you. And you would automatically get the new features without having to do anything on your side.
So the appliance or the vCenter, what's the formal name for this appliance? The
Cloud Gateway.
Okay, so the Cloud Gateway does its own lifecycle management.
Yes.
Right. It's deployed that way for auto upgrades out of the box.
Correct.
And I'm assuming that we're going to probably need to make some type of a service account with the proper permissions that are all detailed in some in-depth white paper of when we go to register the Cloud Gateway with the individual vCenter instance, that then we would use that service account so that it could talk properly and issue lifecycle commands, VM creation, configuration drift, all of the other features of the appliance using that service account.
Yeah, and all that is that you don't have to do anything as a customer. All that is done for you during the onboarding process, which is the initial connection. So as part of this onboarding process, we talked about creating an account. Once you buy your entitlement, you create an account on the VMware Cloud. And then that account has an entitlement for vSphere Plus and vSAN Plus. Then you deploy the appliance, and then you connect that appliance to that cloud account you have already created, right? When you do that, then...
So we're partnering through the CSP, right? Just like with it, if we would have VRA or any of the vRealize suite that's now available as a hosted service, all through that same infrastructure, I'm assuming. Sure.
Yep. So the Cloud Gateway appliance knows what entitlements you have. Do you only have vSphere Plus, or you also have vSAN Plus? And it knows how much of that do you have. Then we're going to turn around and connect the register vCenters to that gateway appliance. And that is going to complete the connection from the vCenter up to the cloud. But the Cloud Gateway appliance, when you register in the vCenters, it does have some accounts, service accounts on the back end, but there's nothing you have to do. All you have to do is associate that vCenter with the organization you created with the vSphere Plus entitlements. So everything's done automatically for you. And that completes the process so that you can see your on-premises infrastructure, not only your vCenters, but also your virtual machines, et cetera, on the cloud.
And how long from the time that we get everything registered till we pop back over into the cloud console and we start to see information populating? How long does that usually take?
So the process, the first time it took me about an hour, but then, recurrent times, it was less and less. So it's pretty simple, very straightforward. When you're doing the connection, only the organizations with that entitlement would be selectable for you. So you can't select an organization and then find out, hey, I don't have vSphere Plus on this. Then I have to do it all over again. So we kind of have some guardrails around that so that you're able to pick the ones with those entitlements. And then within 5 minutes, you start seeing some of your inventory on the cloud.
Okay, so now that we have we've purchased this, we've got the authorization email, we've downloaded the appliance, we've deployed the appliance, we've registered the vCenter instance with the new appliance that we deployed. Information is now traveling back and forth. We have all the network config set up the way that we need to. And we're now logged into the vSphere Plus console, right? The new admin console, the web-based admin console.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the tasks and operations? What do we see in, let's start with the home page, if you will. What are the things that we can see for the dashboard view now to start to be able to monitoring, for, given workloads or vCenters that we've now registered, assuming now that we've done the process for one vCenter and that went smooth and we've registered two. So maybe now that we have two vCenters up there on the console. So what are some of the information that we can see?
So the first item would be the inventory, the global inventory view, right? And so you can see all your vCenters from that single location. It could be in a list view or a grid view, but it gives you information as far as what the vCenter is doing, the resources, CPU, memory, storage.
So this is just like if I would be in a VCSA appliance, right? This is just like an up level of that, right?
Yes, exactly.
Where I'm going to now see a higher level in the tree.
Yep. Yeah. So you're the IT director, you're the CIO, you want to see what's going on, right? Or just you're the operations guy and you want to see what's happening. You don't want to see any red out there, or you don't want to see anything yellow getting filled up, right? So from one location, you can see everything that is happening on all your vCenters that are on premises. So that is one of the main views that you get. But also from that view, you can drill down into an individual vCenter. And from there, you can actually launch your local vCenter UI that you're used to. So there's nothing new to learn. But it can send you back to that local vCenter UI to do additional configuration or changes or whatever you need to do.
Okay.
So it gives you that.
You have the credentials to log into that local vCenter instance. Sure.
Yeah, but that, yeah. Once you flips it over, then you use your local credentials for that. Yeah.
Okay. Is there some operations that we can do natively within the admin console, or is it most of it done? I guess what would be the differentiation point right now of what operations can I do natively within the vSphere Plus console versus what do I still need to switch back over to the traditional VCSA interface?
Mm-hmm. Well, obviously, the VCSA interface will give you a lot more, right?
Sure.
Yeah, with this initial vSphere Plus, some of the features are mostly for the inventory view, some of the configuration as far as drift configuration between vCenters. So, which I think is a nice feature that you don't have on-prem right now, right? So if you want all your vCenters to have the same configuration, you can easily identify that and go ahead and change that if you need to. But we also have a global view of all your security posture of the entire environment in one location. So if you think about it, if you want to do that on premises right now, you have to go vCenter through vCenter and try to drill down, hey, what are my security alerts? Or go to VRups and see what's going on, right? It may take you quite a bit of time, but we'll give you what's popping up, right? What is happening, for example, security-wise. What are your top 5 security issues that you have? And we usually see something like, you have SSH enable. You may want to go ahead and disable that. So in that example, you can click on that alert or on that security issue, and it's going to give you a list of all your objects that have that problem. And it's going to give you a list per vCenter and a list per host. So you can select the host, and it's going to take you directly to that host on the local VCSA UI, where you can go ahead and change those settings. For example, stop SSH, and within a few minutes, it's going to show up on the cloud that now you have one less item under that alert.
So again, I could effectively go in and I could see, let's say I'm working on some type of compliance team or an infrastructure team, and we're using this as an auditing tool for PCI compliance right? We're going down through our checklist, and we're either searching for this or we're seeing that alert that's baked in. We send out the remediation team to go through and, okay, this, based on what we've seen here, SSH is enabled on, vCenter 1 on hosts 2 and 4 for whatever reason, right? Because we weren't using, let's say host profiles or some other type of configuration management as we added these hosts into the cluster. And then also in the second vCenter, there is, 5 and 7, right? Mm-hmm. The teams go in and remediate that. And then how soon could we come back and look at that? Is that almost instantaneous? How quick is this information updating back into the console for those alerting and security audits? Is it, you said a 5-minute window?
Yeah, I think it's between 5 and 15, depending on which one it is. But yeah, on the back end, we're using our own products, right? So when you look at the UI, the vSphere Plus, the Cloud Console, it does look like, hey, we're maybe using VROps or Carbon Black. So we're leveraging some of our own products on the back end, even if you don't own it. So if, for example, in your case, you have 2 vCenters and that's all you own, maybe ESXi, you have vSphere and you have vSAN, that's it. But you can leverage some of our own products by using vSphere Plus now, that it's going to show you some of those security, top security issues that you have and monitor your security posture across the entire environment.
Fantastic. Let's talk a bit. We had brought about configuration management. Before we get to that, I think Eric had a question.
Yeah, just a couple things here. One, just want to do a shout out to the blog, right? You guys absolutely have a blog on the Tech Zone called core.vmware.com/blog/announcing-vSphere Plus, right? So I put that out on TalkShoe as well. I don't think I can publish that URL, but that's where it's at. You can go search for it. Dave authored it, and there's a couple things here. One, I have a question, then I'll get to your blog for a second, then we can continue on. One is, when you're talking about it running in the cloud, is it our cloud? Do you choose a cloud? Where is this service actually running? Is it just on our infrastructure that we would call cloud, VMware?
So this is the VMware cloud that we use for our cloud services that we would offer to customers already. Right. So we're leveraging the same infrastructure. Yep.
Okay, good. All right, that makes sense.
Yeah, so actually when you log in with your account, you see all the services you have. So you may see VMC and AWS or other products, managed VCF, and you will see vSphere Plus as one of those services if you have an entitlement for that. So from that single location, you can jump between the different services that you own or your company owns.
Right. Then the next thing that hits me at the blog is convert to subscription, right? And I've heard some of this with Plus, is that it'll also help you manage, whether you want to move to a subscription and then easily do that. And then when you do convert to subscription, it's almost like, you have to get a PO in place? How is that going to work?
Okay, so this is one of the initial parts. So as a customer, you would go to one of your VMware reps and say, okay, I like vSphere Plus. It makes sense to us. I like vSAN Plus. I like where we're going. I like the whole view, the future view. So you would procure a certain amount of the tokens or whatever they're going to call them, right? That's outside my expertise. But anyway, so that would give you a bucket, and you have an entitlement of so many cores or CPUs for your organization for that account. As you add vCenters, you can start consuming from that bucket. Whether it expires in a year or 2 years, you can start using those tokens or the entitlement for vSphere Plus to whatever you add in. And from the UI, from the Cloud Console UI, it's as simple as going to, you can select one vCenter, you can select 3, you can select them all, right? And there's no limit to the number of vCenters you can have. So you can have 15, 20, 200 vCenters. You can select them all and say convert to subscription. And just like that, you move your licenses from that to subscription. And you would also be able to see the licenses you had, and you don't have to chase licenses anymore. So you can throw away your spreadsheets and just use subscriptions from then.
Right. And I asked, does this console give me a view on how much subscription capacity I have in place?
Yep. It gives you how much you have, the expiration date, what kind. Maybe you have one bucket that only has vSphere Plus, and then later you decided you want both vSAN Plus as well. So you have different allocations or different buckets that you can tap into. But yeah, it will show you all that and how much you're using per vCenter, etc.
Okay. All right. That was one of the things that I noticed in your blog. Then the rest of the blog article that you got has nice configuration management, right, to inventory management, to some additional features here that are nice. But I think for me there is this notion that if I get to subscription, what does that mean? How do I manage that? And is this one of these early products that we're getting to where you're going to be able to manage your subscriptions better? And then I'm thinking, is it worth it? Should I be doing this? Is this where VMware is going?
Mm-hmm.
Certainly to be able to manage lots of vCenters, right? And then have a pool of resources. I don't know, because I don't run a big data center, but maybe Matt, how much effort goes into license management, right? And then this trades off license management to token management, right? And
Mm-hmm.
put them in a bucket, you get vSphere Plus. I've got a console. I can see everything and I can see how much I'm using and I can manage my licenses, as opposed to how much work it is to buy perpetual licenses and keep all those going. It seems like the few vSphere instances I have in my rack down in San Jose, I'm always every year going like, oh, where are my licenses? Where are they going? Mostly because I'm running on obviously vExpert free licenses and they only run a year versus in the old days, they'd run like 3 years. But or I'd have perpetual licenses. So I guess there's that trade-off in license management to token management, right? That customers will deal with.
Yeah, and it also helps you moving to OpEx. I think when I talk to some customers and they're trying to understand why the move, well, a lot of companies have done this already. But if you think about what happened with COVID a couple of years ago, and nobody saw it coming, right? Unless you watch The Simpsons quite a bit, but nobody saw it coming, and they may have invested 3 years into a lot of infrastructure, and then all of a sudden how to switch to VDI or help move to the cloud to help their employees get connected right away. So a lot of that initial investment
tokens don't lock you into a license. Tokens are fungible, right? You can use them for other services.
So moving to OpEx allows them to move freely to where they need to spend their money as they see fit. And like I said, times now are changing very quickly, just like hardware is. So if you look at CPUs, they change very quickly. And IT is now the same old IT that we used to, where everything was 3-5 years ahead of time that we had to plan. Now everything's so very dynamic, and we need to adjust for that. And I think OpEx helps a lot of our customers.
Yeah, that's interesting because we are going to have Laura Heisman on. She's our new CMO. I think we have her booked for the show on the 20th of this month. I think on 2 more shows. And we're talking about what marketing has to do and what we're going to do after community members to transition to SaaS consumption, because you know how many times we've sold licenses. I've bought licenses and I'd leave them on a shelf, right? And I go, oh yeah, I put them on some servers, but then the project never takes off, or it takes off like a year and a half later, right? So and the licenses kind of tick down, but it's okay. You got them in place, but then you're going to run them at some point. And then some of them you run and some of them you never get to, right? This token management allows you to optimize for having shelfware all over the place, because if you just got shelfware, you're just not burning any tokens, right? And then if you shut servers down, you're not burning any licenses. And so for me, having had to deal with license management my whole life for community software, I would think this is a good way to deal with it, because I probably waste 50% of my budget on overcapacity in licenses for CPUs and servers for software products, because I just got to make sure I have enough that I overcapacity my licenses, just so I don't have to deal with it every 3 years. I have to go deal with it. And so I think that would be a really good value prop for moving to like a Plus environment where you have a console and you have everything managed there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you need something right away, you can convert to subscription, even if you don't have enough, like I said, tokens or CPUs, processors, and then go ahead and pay when time comes for that. So it gives you flexibility on expanding as you need to, as you grow, right on demand.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, now, do we service charge you if you over capacity run out of tokens? Can I borrow tokens from Matt if I go too low on my tokens? But I feel like
that I don't know. That's like I said, that's not.
These tokens gonna go like, can I earn tokens?
Well, we talked about the on-prem use case, right? 2 disparate vCenters that were split between 2 physically on-prem DCs or customer-owned DCs. Dave, how does this work for a customer that's a little bit more further along their hybrid cloud journey? What happens if we have an on-prem instance and then we have something like a VMC on AWS? Does that apply here? Is that something where we're able to, now have that single management plane between what was, on-prem infrastructure and our, VMC or hybrid cloud offerings that we have out there now on, the AWS, Azure, Oracle?
Well, for now, vSphere Plus is the on-prem option, right? To bring your on-prem to the cloud. Like I was saying, the Arctic vision is to have all these dispersed environments come together so you can see them from one location without saying a whole lot. But what step one is to bring those on-premises infrastructure resources so that you can see them on the cloud from anywhere, and then eventually become that big hybrid cloud that customers need.
And again, based on some of what we had talked about from what the bigger vision is, you can potentially see maybe where we're headed with this without giving away too much. Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
We have to start somewhere with disparate vCenters for on-prem. And then, that puts us in a position to now start to, look at more unified management for both on-prem and hybrid workloads.
Sure.
Yeah.
And this historically feels, like when we went, and this is going to be probably cleaner, but we used to have vCenter, and it was the Microsoft built, compiled on Windows, and you needed Windows client to run it, and it was great. Everybody loved it. But then eventually we did get to the web one because there's pain to get over to the web one. But then the web one kind of gives you a little bit more flexibility. You can run it wherever you have a browser. You can get access, and everybody gets used to that. And then it has benefits. And I can see this transition where now you've got a browser interface that could connect to your data center. In the future, the rationality is that you can connect to many data centers, many clouds, multi-cloud, have the classic pane of glass where we did work to get into HTML5, really high quality GUI that you have all the features. Now, because it is, browser-based, cloud-based, multi-cloud based, you actually do have kind of an interface that allows you to sit and have a true multi-cloud environment, right? And I can see that VMware has been on this march ever since Paul Maritz owned the company, right, or was the CEO of the company, and that was, I think, his vision. And I now see this is another step to getting, to true cloud, and then, steps down the road that I'm sure you guys can talk about, but I don't know anything about it. So I can guesstimate that we would then, take the next steps where this would be a true multi-cloud environment, managing your hypervisor infrastructure, right? So in the cloud.
Yeah. Going back to, the beginning, right? What is the problem? Why we're doing this? And again, it's not just, a bunch of on-prem vCenters sitting in different countries, different states, but also a lot of clouds, a lot of products. Even within, our portfolio, we have a lot of products. So it's bringing not only those environments together, but bringing all those products together that can work together for and being able to purchase them in a simple way, right? Not having to buy licenses for every single product, but you can just buy a subscription for that solution, and that solution gets you A, B, and C.
And you could even, just like when you had a hypervisor, you could load balance workloads across machines. You can actually load balance your tokens across apps depending on what you need. Maybe there's a security threat and you need to, consume more security capacity. This allows you to do that, right?
And one interesting thing about vSphere Plus, so you would purchase that. The way we're going to sell it, but also it gives you unlimited vCenter. So if you want to go ahead and deploy a new vCenter, that's already included with you having to go out and buy a new license for vCenter server in this case. We're also we want to enable our customers to go into the container side, because we're seeing that a lot of customers and a lot of applications are going to be moving in that area in the next 4 or 5 years. And as part of vSphere Plus, we're giving customers Tanzu runtime as part of it for free, as well as some other tools like Tanzu Mission Control, etc. So we're trying to help the customers not just move to subscription, but help them get to where they need to be in the next few years.
I assume all this has role-based access baked in, so that if I'm coming in, I'm seeing, a view of what I, the vCenter servers that I have access to. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So because this is cloud-based, and on the VMware Cloud, we had this for a while. We have, RBAC already in place. So if you had all the services, you can just go to the same way, right? You add users and whatever roles you need to assign those users to.
So we could have multiple vCenters that were out there, but then, for compliance or regulatory rules, or just even, if you had third-party contractors that would come in, and then being able to define that, okay, I have 5 vCenters that are geographically dispersed around the world, but I only want that particular individual to have access to vCenters that are in this geographic location. Boom, right there, our back role that would be built, and then that's the only thing that they would be able to see within the vSphere Plus cloud.
I think you may be able to do that through organizations, just having different orgs within your account. Yeah, if you break it out that way. But yeah, I mean, there's, like I said, this is version 1, so we have some features, and there's a lot coming. And one of the cool things about vSphere Plus is that we will be adding cloud-based solutions on top of that. So, for example, VCDR, right? VMware Cloud Disaster Recovery. Even though your infrastructure is on premises and your VMs are local to you and your hosts are local vCenters, you can still, once you add it to vSphere Plus, you can leverage things like VMware Cloud Disaster Recovery to protect those virtual machines in the cloud. So as new features get added to that entitlement to that service, those will be automatically enabled as they come out.
Dave, this is a little outside of your wheelhouse, and I know your core article was on vSphere Plus, but the corollary to this was also vSAN Plus that was announced. So from, a very high level, I'm assuming this is some of that same functionality as far as being able to look at storage, utilization, possibly deploying SPVM, multiple profiles across disparate vCenters, some alerting functionality, I would think, if you had a disk group that would fall out. Is that some of the functionality that we could see from that as well?
So right now with vSAN Plus, we have the offering to go subscription-based, right? So that's one of the bigger moves. But you also have the capability of, for example, you're deploying virtual machines from the cloud console. You not only get to pick which vCenter you want to deploy that VM to, even though you're doing from the cloud console in Pennsylvania, you could be deploying VMs in China or UK without having to log into those vCenter servers locally.
So just from a technical perspective, how does that work as far as, does the appliance now have some type of content library that it stages these VMs on, or how does the VMDK, if let's say I have a local VMDK on my desktop, right, and I want to use that as my parent, if you will, to deploy out in either a single or multiple instance, and that copy doesn't reside locally within the vCenter. One, is that technically feasible, or does it need to reside locally? And two, if it is able to be deployed from a local machine, how does it get the necessary bits then transferred down to the local vCenter?
So some of that information is coming soon, but from a VM standpoint, you can leverage local templates. So if those vCenters have any templates and you want to keep it consistent, your build's consistent, it will show up, right? You don't have to do anything on the cloud. Once you add the template to the vCenter, we're going to see, okay, you have
you have a template available, right?
Yep.
Again, it's just looking that next level up as far as the tree pyramid that you would have within your standard VCSA view, if you will.
Yep. And then the next option that I was getting into was the vSAN. So now you can see vSAN data stores from the cloud console, where you can actually deploy these virtual machines to and leverage that shared storage from that. And as we add more features into it, then you're going to be able to see more vSAN features and visibility of what's going on with the environments.
Okay. And then what about just another point that you had brought up on the great blog that's out there is the desired state configuration, right? We've seen a couple of different iterations of how this has been implemented. between host profiles and then what we had now, switched over to, desired state within vSphere and using a, common image for a given cluster. How is this implemented now within vSphere Plus as far as maintaining a desired state? I see there's some options out there for a JSON file.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you create a profile and you can use your own settings. You can import a JSON file to use as your base, or you can take one of those vCenters and make it your parent profile. So we're going to extract those settings that you have from that parent vCenter, and based on that, we're going to apply the profile to either one or all of your vCenters that you have registered, and then when you can run a compliance check to see, if any of those have moved from that desired state, and we will show you the number of settings that are different and what settings exactly are different. So one of them, it's a JSON file that you can look, or you can see a tree view of all those specific settings that you can go ahead and change and remediate from there.
Okay. And if an admin that's listening along right now wants to get their hands on this, as far as doing a walkthrough or a little bit of a test drive, what's the best way to do it?
So we have a couple options. Right now, we have the hands-on lab. So if you go to the Pathfinder website or Customer Connect, just search for vSphere Plus, and you're gonna be able to see the hands-on lab. This hands-on lab is it takes you through the whole process, so the whole journey from installing the cloud gateway appliance and connecting the servers, connecting vCenters, connecting to the cloud, etc. So it takes you through all that, and right when we go GA, when the bits are available publicly, then the customers will be able to go ahead and try it themselves with their own infrastructure.
Do we have a publicly, available GA date or a range that we're able to say as far as when we might be targeting?
A range, I would say, is by the end of the quarter.
Okay, fair enough.
But it may happen sooner than that.
All right, we're at the top of the hour. We have a couple minutes left. So Dave Morera, thanks a lot for coming on the show. Twitter handle is at Great White TEC, GreatWhiteTEC. Give him a follow and say hello to him and tell him you had him on the community podcast. That'd be great. We'll switch into barbecue, right? So Dave, I got one question there. Do you have a banjo hanging on the back of your wall like there?
No,
is that
no, it's an acoustic guitar, electric acoustic.
Oh,
it's
all right.
an Ovation.
Guitar.
Yeah.
Couldn't really tell. The farthest to the left for me, maybe you're right. I thought that second one was maybe a band.
That is a ukulele.
A ukulele. All
Yeah.
right. Well, that explains it, right? Got some guitars hanging out there, so that's cool. I don't see banjos very often, so I was going to ask you on that one. So we live stream on vBarbecue, youtube.com/vBarbecue. Go check out what Dave looks like. You can see his guitars hanging on his wall. We talk barbecue because it's the end of the show. Where are you located, Dave? Are you still up in Pennsylvania, somewhere out in the eastern seaboard?
No, about 3 years ago, I moved down to Florida because I like the swampy heat and humidity. So I'm here, but I do enjoy the winters down here better than Florida.
Get to go wrestle some alligators.
Yeah.
What do you do for barbecue down in Florida?
So one of the first purchases I made down here was a smoker. So I have a Rectex smoker, which I use quite a bit. Actually just smoked some pork butts this weekend. They came out really good. Yeah. So I usually do that. Brisket, wings, whatever.
So is it pellet fed, or how are you doing that?
Yeah, it's pellet fed.
Yeah. Matt, I got to say that I picked up a Traeger, right? My neighbor
we've heard about this.
Yeah. And I used it this
How
weekend.
did it go?
Smoked fish, a yellowtail. Oh, amazing.
Nice.
Like, if you've ever bought smoked fish from the grocery store, it comes in oily, but it's like brown. It's just like a reddish brown. My dad used to feed us that as a kid. Like, I ate that stuff. I love that. Oh yeah, because Denmark, they don't eat anything but pickled fish and smoked fish and everything fish. So it's my house. I loved it. I smoked fish. We did a 5-hour smoke where we just
Now, what pellets did you use?
I used hickory. So they had recommended hickory for for fish, to smoke the fish. So that's what we used. And man, it just took me back to when I was a little kid eating smoked fish out of a package. It was amazing. So Matt, I would say that you definitely need to get yourself a pellet smoker from somewhere. I bet you can get them used online for like $50 and just put it out there. It is. I'd never really.
I love my
the smoke
propane
stuff.
outdoor gas oven.
Now I gotta say
won't dare call it. You're
That's
you know,
blasphemy.
blasphemy. Tony Foster, you're on. Any interesting barbecue from the weekend?
Yeah, I got to do country style pork ribs.
Pork ribs.
Nice.
What does country style mean?
So country style, they instead of the entire rib bone being here, they cut across the rib bone so that you get more meat and less bone.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Cook up really, really nice.
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
good too. Right. Yeah. We did take romaine lettuce, full romaine lettuces, and cut them in half. And you put oil on them and you put them on the grill with then some sprinkled Parmesan cheese on the top of it. And it's just kind of like romaine lettuce cut in half, put on the grill. It chars it. Amazing. And then we got Brentwood corn and we just dropped ears on the barbecue as well. So Matt, in your defense, we had the smoker, but we also had a propane grill where we were at. And so we did
I thought
the
these
lettuce.
things weren't allowed. I thought you had to take
not allowed to
4
do
or
your
5
meat.
hours and get
Yeah,
the briquettes just at the right temperature, and
Yeah.
that sounds too
But
easy. You're not allowed that in
gas-
the barbecue world, right?
Gas is good for doing the sides. How's
Most things, yeah, it just works.
Dave, Matt, always good to chat with you guys. We're over the hour, so we're gonna fold it up. Thanks a lot to Julia Klaus, who runs us every week and gets people and guests here. So shout out to all them.
Absolutely.
Shout out to VMUG. Can't wait to have Brad Thompson on and hear about what we got planned for next year. Until then, everybody go get some barbecue, get a smoker, and put some food on, even if it's vegetables, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you, Dave.
Thanks,
Appreciate
guys.
you being on.
Thanks for the
Appreciate
invite.
the content.